Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's from Canto 3, which is entitled The Status Quo. Chapter 1, Questions by Vidura. And this morning we're doing text 42. We're fortunate to have Her Grace Anandarupa Mataji from ISKCON, DC, to give the class. We're going to wait a little bit for her to come on the camera, and then we'll start.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I so much apologize for the delay in opening camera. Just give me one more minute. Just give me one more minute. Hare
Sure.
Krishna.
Whenever you're ready to start. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Okay, Hare Krishna, devotees. I'm going to start singing Jai Radha Madhava, and Mataji can continue when you come. Okay, just came in. All right, Hare Krishna. Please go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Sorry about that. Something came up needing urgent attention, so I was like running around.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Sorry about that. Please accept my most humble obeisances. Dear devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Let's start with Jai Radha Madhav prayers. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha गिरिवरधारी गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रजन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रजन रंजन जमुना तीरा वनचारी जमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद् हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी शिला प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद् हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। नामाचार्य श्रीला हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय, मायापुर धाम की जय, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, गंगा माई की जय, यमुना माई की जय, भक्तिमयी तुलसी देवी की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। All glories to assemble devotees, all glories to assemble devotees, all glories to assemble devotees, all glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। श्रवतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवण कीर्तन हृदयन्तस्थो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्कथाम् नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतेरुत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Hare Krishna everyone. Today we are doing Shravan and Kirtan from Canto 3, Chapter 1, verse number 42. Soham harer martya-viḍambanena dṛśo nṛṇāṁ cālayato vidhātuḥ nānyopalakṣyaḥ padavīṁ prasādāc carāmi paśyan gata-vismayo. Soham harer martya-viḍambanena dṛśo nṛṇāṁ cālayato vidhātuḥ nānyopalakṣyaḥ padavīṁ prasādāc carāmi paśyan gata-vismayo. Soham harer martya-viḍambanena dṛśo nṛṇāṁ cālayato vidhātuḥ nānyopalakṣyaḥ padavīṁ prasādāc carāmi paśyan gata-vismayo. Hare Krishna.
Soham Hare martya-viḍambanena dṛśo nṛṇāṁ cālayato vidhātuḥ nānyopalakṣyaḥ padavīṁ prasādāc carāmi paśyan gata-vismayo dṛśo. Hare Krishna.
Soham harer martya-viḍambanena dṛśo nṛṇāṁ cālayato vidhātuḥ nānyopalakṣyaḥ padavīṁ prasādāc carāmi paśyan gata-vismayo dṛśo. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Soham harer martya-viḍambanena dṛśo nṛṇāṁ cālayato vidhātuḥ nānyopalakṣyaḥ padavīṁ prasādāc carāmi paśyan gata-vismayo. Hare Krishna.
Synonym: Sa aham, therefore I, Hare, of the personality of Godhead, martya, in this mortal world, vidambanena, without being recognized, dṛśo, on sight, nṛṇāṁ, of the people in general, cālayata, bewildering, vidhātuḥ, in order to do it, not, anya, other, upalakṣyaḥ, seen by others, padavīṁ, glories, prasādāc, by the grace of, carāmi, do travel, paśyan, by seeing, gata-vismayo, without doubt, atra, in this matter. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I am not astonished at this, having traveled over the world without being seen by others. The activities of the personality of Godhead, which are like those of a man in this mortal world, are bewildering to others, but I know of his greatness by his grace, and thus I am happy in all respects. Purport: Jai Srila Prabhupada. Although he was the brother of Dhritarashtra, Vidur was completely different. By the grace of Lord, he was not foolish like his brother, and thus his brother's association could not influence him. Dhritarashtra and his materialistic sons wanted to falsely lord it over the material world by dint of their own strength. The Lord encouraged them in this, and thus they became more and more bewildered. But Vidur wanted to achieve sincere devotional service of the Lord, and therefore became a soul absolutely surrendered to the absolute personality of Godhead. He could realize this in the progress of his pilgrim's journey, and thus he was freed from all doubts. He was not at all sorry to be bereft of his hearth and home, because he now had experienced that dependence on the mercy of the Lord is a greater freedom than so-called freedom at home. A person should not be in the renounced order of life unless he is firmly convinced of being protected by the Lord. This stage of life is experienced. This stage of life is explained in Bhagavad Gita as Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhi. Every living entity is factually completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord, but unless one is in the pure state of existence, he cannot be established in this position. This stage of dependence is called Sattva Samshuddhi, or purification of one's existence. The result of such purification is exhibited in fearlessness. A devotee of the Lord who is called Narayana is never afraid of anything because he is always aware of the fact that the Lord protects him. in all circumstances. With this conviction, Vidur traveled alone, and he was not seen or recognized by any friend or foe. Thus, he enjoyed freedom of life without obligation to many duties of the world. When Lord Krishna was personally present in the mortal world in his eternal blissful form of Shyam Sundar, those who were not pure devotees of the Lord could not recognize him or know his glories. Avagyananti mamura manusham tanum ashritam. He is always bewildering to the non-devotees, but he is always seen by the devotees by dint of their pure devotional service to him. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paśyatya Deshitarine. Guru Maharaj and Guru Parampara ki Jai. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripa tadaham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya vacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namo. Shri Guru Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna everyone. So in this chapter, which is titled as Enquiries by Vidur, many of us have been understanding that Vidur was a wise and righteous uncle in Kuru dynasty, while his brother Dhritarashtra was the blind king. Dhritarashtra, we know, was deeply attached to his sons, especially who is his son he was deeply attached to and he has been supporting throughout? Anyone? Hare Krishna. Duryodhana. And despite knowing what was right, Dhritarashtra repeatedly supported his sons' unjust actions against the Pandavas. Now, this Vidur being true well-wisher, he strongly advised Dhritarashtra to correct this, but his words were rejected. He faced rejection. He faced humiliation. In fact, he was insulted and asked to leave the palace. So he made a choice. He chose dignity and spiritual growth over humiliation and conflict. And he left home. He began his pilgrimage. That was Dwapar Yuga time. Please try to remember this. In Dwapar Yuga, everyone went on pilgrimage. They had, how long did they live? So we have Satyug, Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, Satyug, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga and Kali Yuga. So span of life during Satyug used to be 100,000 years. Treta Yuga, it was tens of thousands of years. And then Dwapar Yuga, it was thousands of years. And in Kali age, even shorter. We'll consider ourselves fortunate if we can make it to 70, 80, 90, 100. So it is this setting. He went on pilgrimage and he meets, first he meets Uddhav at the banks of Yamuna, and then he meets Maitreya. So this setting of this chapter is, he has met Uddhav. And throughout this past, today I am giving this presentation, this talk on verse number 42. So past 41 verses are his enquiries to Uddhav. And shortly, I will share why is he presenting these questions to Uddhav. And so Vidur began his pilgrimage in search of higher truth. And his background, I just mentioned, it is this setting that is deep and honest inquiries arise. Now, little bit about Srimad Bhagavatam. From Vaishnavacharya's commentaries, we know Srimad Bhagavatam is like a river of divine conversations flowing from heart to heart. At least 3 conversations we are reading here. We are reading about Srila Shukdev Goswami conversing or chanting this Srimad Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit. And then we are reading from Vidur to Uddhav, and then later on in the subsequent chapters, we will see the conversation between Maitreya and Vidur. So entire Srimad Bhagavatam moves sacred inquiries, and these are sincere spiritual questions, and there is a mood of humility and love. So now this particular verse is another beautiful example of this culture. So now this is little background for those who are joining after a long time. We are familiar since the beginning of first canto that Kurukshetra was concluded. Krishna has protected the Pandavas. Bhishma Dev has departed. Krishna returns to Dwarka, and eventually Maharaj Parikshit is cursed to die in 7 days. And I remember in my last class, I asked everyone this question. I asked, what is Parikshit Maharaj's ultimate question? He asks, what should a person hear, chant, remember, and do at the time of death? So Shukdev Goswami gradually unfolds the deeper pastimes and glories of the Lord. Now in this 3rd canto, we are in a section, this is a deeply emotional section. It is centered on separation from Krishna and transmission of transcendental knowledge. Who is experiencing separation from Krishna? As will be clear in these verses, it is Uddhav. So now, in between these verses, teachings, we should try to relate how these teachings apply practically to our day-to-day life. We experience a lot of emotions in day-to-day, our experiences. We see how world becomes affected or influenced or poisoned by envy and politics. And in that situation, how devotees seek shelter in engaging in spiritual practices like seeking friendships, spiritual friendships, sadhu sangha, in chanting and hearing glories of the Lord, which is Hari Katha. And of course, we always have the option of pilgrimage, like Vidur is on pilgrimage. And then ultimately we have Srimad Bhagavatam and the holy names. So when Vidur returns, Vidur went on pilgrimage, he went traveling, and then when Kurukshetra war was open, war was over, and most of the Kuru dynasty was destroyed, and Dhritarashtra is spiritually shattered. Yudhishthira Maharaj is ruling. Then Vidur meets Dhritarashtra. He came back. And he instructs Dhritarashtra about the temporary nature of body. He talks to him about inevitable death. He talks to him about detachment and preparing for spiritual perfection. But he did it as a pure devotee and fearless spiritual well-wisher. That is why, it is mentioned, we read in the purport also, right? Let me go back to the verse. So here it's mentioned, now Vidur is saying, I am not astonished at this, having traveled all over the world without being seen by others. The activities of personality of Godhead, which are like those of man in this mortal world, are bewildering to others, but I know of his greatness by his grace, and I'm happy in all respects. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada has explained that in spite of all the humiliation, he stays well-wisher of Dhritarashtra. And that is one special characteristic we should keep in mind, and I'm going to share more on that. So Vidur was a minister. He was responsible, in the as his role in that time. And after finishing his responsibility, and travel and all, his heart naturally moves towards Krishna Katha. And even during his travels, when he meets Uddhav, this meeting is extremely significant. Why? Because Uddhav is one of Krishna's most intimate associates. He has directly witnessed Krishna's final manifest pastimes on earth and the separation which I mentioned earlier. He carries the pain of separation from the Lord. So the mood changes here from politics and history. What does it change to? To deep remembrance and devotion. We will be further seeing also that Vidur asked so many questions. He repeatedly asks about Yadavas, Pandavas, devotees of the Lord. If you look back from verse number 1 to around 35, 36 verses, they're all questions about, devotees of the Lord, his associates. And they are not ordinary social questions. That also gives us a wonderful teaching that our questions or inquiries, in spiritual life should be centered around Krishna and his devotees. Not that, how successful are people materially. Because a devotee sees every person according to their relationship with Krishna. Thus, every inquiry becomes spiritual. It's not a waste of time. And these verses are really about a sincere seeker. Who is that? Vidur. He is meeting the right guide. Who? Uddhav. Where? At the right time, at the banks of Yamuna. And this verse 42 reveals Vidur's internal realization after years of pilgrimage and reflection. So now I want to ask you a quick question. Have you ever had a moment when something painful or confusing happened and later it revealed itself as meaningful? Raise your hand very quick. There is a react button down there. You can click on that and raise your hand. Did it ever happen to you? Yes, I see Dhir Krishna Prabhu indicating. Anyone else? Haribol, please show me your hand. Do you have such experiences in life? Something confusing or terrible happened, which seemed like a suffering, but later on, over time, over days, over years, it revealed itself as meaningful. In the beginning, it felt like a loss, or when you are experiencing that, when you felt devastated or angry or, all those emotions. And later on, after many years of, since memory keeps bringing back some incidents, sometimes life experiences show us that it was like a guidance, it was like a lesson. So Srimad Bhagavatam shows us a similar transformation in Vidur's life. He's a minister, he faced rejection, but he becomes a fearless pilgrim. It's mentioned in the purport. He went wandering, he went on travels. So a wandering seeker becomes a receiver of transcendental realization. Where is the transcendental realization? In this verse itself. So far in all past verses, he's asking questions, which shows we discussed actually for the presentations or the talks I gave. I remember we learned from that. That's how the inquiries should be for one who is truly sincere seeker, spiritual seeker. But now these verses are his realizations, past verse and this verse. And what was the past verse? Text number 41 was, O gentle one, I simply lament for him, Dhritarashtra, who rebelled against his brother after death. By him I was driven out of my house, although I am his sincere well-wisher, because he accepted the line of action adopted by his own sons. So this is one thing he is mentioning based on his realizations, deep realizations. And the second one is now what we are reading today. And then there are further more verses. So, so in these verses, we are seeing that a sincere spiritual seeker can become a receiver of transcendental realization. And if there is any bewilderment, it gradually can transform into deep trust in Krishna. Why deep trust? What are we reading here which shows us deep trust? Because he himself is saying that, if you see the last part of the translation of text 42, but I know of his greatness by his grace, and thus I am happy in all respects. In spite of all rejection and humiliation, he's saying, I'm happy. So often bewilderment with deep realization and trust can lead to, coming to terms or having a higher vision, which can relate to happiness in all circumstances. Now, let's talk about Vidur's turning point from how it went from rejection to pilgrimage. So earlier I mentioned that Vidur was insulted and driven out of royal palace. Now he could have responded with anger, in resentment, in political retaliation, but he left. He transformed rejection into pilgrimage. That was what period? That was Dwapar Yuga. And he traveled across holy places not as a tourist, but as a seeker of truth. That teaches us something very important, that the same external event can produce either bitterness or spiritual awakening, depending on consciousness. Many motivational speakers, they give the talks from being bitter to sweeter, from bitter to better life. So we all have experience of going places, driving. And what happens is when we use these Waze or other GPS systems, often it shows rerouting, recalculating. So often, life also redirects us when plans collapse. And what feels like breakdown is often a deeper divine redirection. So now Vidur, when says here that I am not astonished at this, having traveled all over the world without being seen by others, and he talks about activities of personality of Godhead. It may seem like they're like a man of this mortal world, which can bewilder to those, it can be bewildering to those in like material consciousness, or those who do not have a higher vision or better understanding. But Vidur says, I know of his greatness by his grace. That shows his deep faith. And he says, thus I am happy in all respects. This is a very important realization. Vidur is not saying he understands everything. He is saying something deeper. What is he saying? He's saying, I am no longer disturbed or bewildered by what I see. Why is that? Because he has developed a different vision. Krishna's activities appear human. How? Some see that, okay, he acts like a friend, he appears to suffer separation, he is moving like an ordinary person, he gets sick. So they start thinking his activities appear human. And in that material vision, this is confusing. But Vidur here says, others are bewildered, but I am not. Let's take an example. If you see one piece of a puzzle, it looks random. But someone who knows the full picture, are they disturbed by a single piece? No. So Vidur is saying, I may not see the full picture, but I trust the one who is arranging it. And it is that underlying trust that produces happiness. He's saying, thus, I'm happy in all respects. Not because everything is understood, but because everything is seen in relation to Krishna. And Vidur also says, I traveled all over the world without being seen by others. So Srila Prabhupada, he has explained in his talks that pilgrimage is not about external recognition, but internal purification. And here Vidur was not traveling for fame, followers, validation. What is he traveling for? After rejection, humiliation, what do you think he's traveling for? Any comments? Very quick. Hare Krishna. Anyone? What do you think Vidur is traveling for? After the humiliation and rejection by Kurus.
Part of what he said, Hare Krishna, part of what he said was that he wanted purification. Krishna was there, but he still wanted to go on pilgrimage because he had associated with Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, and so he wanted purification, and he thought going on pilgrimages to holy sites would be the best thing. Hare Krishna.
Yes, purification. And that purification brought him transformation of heart, remembrance, deeper remembrance of Supreme Lord, and these realizations, which we are all benefiting from. So, general tendency by people is often unconsciously they seek visibility. They want appreciation, acknowledgement, recognition. But here, when we read about Vidur and other great personalities in Srimad Bhagavatam, we learn about a higher principle that spiritual life deepens when we stop needing to be seen and start seeking to see Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada describes Vidur as fearless. In the purport, if you see, there is a section, it says, Abhayam Sattva Samashuddhi. Every living entity is factually completely dependent on mercy of Lord, but unless one is in pure state of existence, he cannot be established in this position. And then further down it says, result of such purification is exhibited in fearlessness. A devotee of the Lord who is called Narayan Para is never afraid of anything because he is always aware of the fact that Lord protects him in all circumstances. So with Vidur here, he became fearless because he had faith in protection of the Lord. And so fearlessness does not mean absence of uncertainty. Uncertainty may be there in life. It means absence of dependence on material arrangements. So Vidur left position, he left comfort, he left security, yet he remained steady. Why? Why did he remain steady? Because his dependence shifted from circumstances to Krishna. How does this apply to us? What do we learn from this? We are not asked to renounce, wherever we are in our roles, but we are asked to remain steady in responsibility. We are asked to chant despite our distractions. We receive instructions on regular classes of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we may be having a lot of fatigue or, other reasons to be not able to, mind rationalizes. And then, we want to maintain integrity under pressure. We want to remember Krishna during uncertainty. So, have you ever noticed or thought about this, that a ship is safest in the harbor, but not built for harbor? So faith is proven not in comfort, but in storms. Here, Vidur example shows us that real surrender is not escaping life, but it is in remembering Krishna within life. Throughout all these verses, he is so fixed on asking about devotees of the Lord, glorifying the Lord. And what is this special month, Purushottam month? What does it mean for us? So when we are reading about the Supreme Lord, that he is always bewildering to the non-devotees, but he is always seen by devotees by dint of their pure devotional service, this connects beautifully for this month, Purushottam month of austerities. We can see this truth in Krishna's pastimes. Some of the pastimes, let me quickly share. I think we have time. Very briefly. When Krishna was invited by, Akrur went him and got him for the wrestling arena. Everyone was seeing the same person, but they were not seeing the same reality. Non-devotees could see a young cowherd boy and they were saying, he is going to be defeated. This is dangerous. They were bewildered. But devotees could see, they were thinking, he is the Supreme Lord entering his arrangement. Nothing can touch him. He is already victorious. So it is same Krishna, just different vision. The same Lord appears ordinary to some and divine to others, depending on consciousness. We all have heard about Mother Yashoda. She saw dirt in Krishna's mouth and she asked him to open his mouth. The baby Krishna, pastime. And what does she see inside when he opens the mouth? She sees universes, planets. She sees time and creation itself. Again, we are learning about two visions here. Mother's vision is my child is lying, and a devotee's vision is the source. He is the source of everything. So then what does Krishna do? He covers this vision with Yog Maya so mother can continue loving him. So Krishna reveals himself only to the love, not to analysis, not to procrastination, not to rationalization. That's why we have a whole section about mind management and, so many beautiful pastimes where we can learn how we can transcend from anarthas to pure love. So now we see Krishna stealing butter and being bound by the rope by Mother Yashoda. To those who don't have better understanding about that pastime, they think of it as these pastimes as mischievous child. But to devotees, they understand that Supreme Lord is conquered by love. Yet the infinite Lord allows himself to be bound by devotion. So why am I talking about these leelas? Because in the purport, if you see, it's mentioned when Lord Shri Krishna was personally present in the mortal world, the last section of purport, it says, when Lord Shri Krishna was personally present in mortal world in his eternal blissful form of Shyam Sundar, those who were not pure devotees of the Lord could not recognize him or know his glories. He is always bewildering to the non-devotees, but he is always seen by devotees by dint of their pure devotional service to him. So, Krishna, Srila Prabhupada explains that Krishna is not hidden. He is differently seen. Material vision may lead to bewilderment, but the devotional or spiritual vision reveals. It leads to revelation. So here, let me summarize what, this beautiful verse is telling. This beautiful verse is helping us understand Vidur's journey shows a progression. So just like we hear about progression of faith, sincere spiritual seeker with little faith, they participate in sadhu sangha and go through bhajan kriya that brings anartha nivritti, clarification, purification of unwanted things in the heart, that makes the, astha, faith, stronger, helps develop nishtha, and eventually bhav and pure love. Similarly, Vidur's journey is also showing a progression. From the point of rejection, when he went for pilgrimage, which developed deeper humility, more harikatha, more realizations, to fearlessness, and happiness. So, in the same way, we may have experiences in day-to-day life causing bitterness in our hearts. Yet, there is always a choice to transform that bitterness to devotion, to transform that bitterness to love and devotion. And what is the difference? How does it happen? Difference is consciousness. So let's talk about Kali Yuga times. Current age is Kali Yuga, right? What is our pilgrimage? Of course, there are temples and pilgrimage sites, but we always have pilgrimage of hearing and chanting. Vidur had fortune of traveling to holy places. He met exalted personalities like Uddhav, Maitreya, and he had the great fortune of receiving direct association of advanced devotees. But in Kali Yuga, we are not deprived too. We are given something equally powerful. What do we have in Kali Yuga? Hare Krishna, anyone? What do we have in Kali Yuga?
The holy name.
Yes, and we have Srimad Bhagavatam. We are here sitting together and doing Shravan and Kirtan of Srimad Bhagavatam. We may not meet Uddhava physically, but we can hear his realizations, Uddhav and Vidur, and all the personalities, right? We are reading about in Srimad Bhagavatam. And we can receive their teachings through the sound vibrations. And Srila Prabhupada emphasizes that hearing and chanting are the essence of this age. So now we also know that in, I think it is chapter 12, it's mentioned that the mercy available, Canto 12 of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned there, Parikshit Maharaj, after the entire Srimad Bhagavatam was narrated, so Shukdev Goswami says to Parikshit Maharaj, Kale dosh nidhe rajan asti he eko mahan guna. He says, although Kali age is ocean of faults, there is one great quality. By chanting the holy names of the Lord, one can attain the highest perfection. And this is the day-to-day pilgrimage for us. It is an austerity, but we can definitely take this journey of austerity. And Vidur traveled thousands of miles seeking saintly association. Today, the same association is available through chanting of the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that is chanting of holy names. Then we have Srimad Bhagavatam. We can read from Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. We can associate with the sadhus, the genuine devotees. So in this way, our life's challenges can become a pilgrimage. We all have the invitation for it. And we can present sincere inquiries that can lead us to saintly sadhu sangha. And this sadhu sangha can lead us to more shravanam, hearing. And this hearing can lead us to remembrance of Krishna. And this remembrance can blossom into love. So there is another thing mentioned here. It's mentioned that it's bewildering to others how Supreme Lord appears like a man in the mortal world. And I mentioned earlier that he takes birth, he becomes friend, he drives chariot, he seems to suffer separation, he falls sick. And so someone who does not have a proper understanding, it may seem contradictory. So Uddhav Vidur here is saying, others are bewildered, but by his grace, I know something of his greatness. So, someone undergoing surgery may think, for example, a child who undergoes surgery, he may think, why is my loving mother allowing this? The child only sees pain and mother sees healing. Similarly, we often judge Krishna's plan from a tiny window of time. We see one chapter, but Krishna sees the whole book. Many times in life we say, why did this happen? But later on we realize it was Krishna's arrangement. So in this way, we should understand happiness. There is mention of happiness there. Vidur says, I am happy. And I earlier mentioned his deeper trust makes him happy in all respects because he trusts Krishna. He knows Krishna. So happiness does not come from understanding every event. Happiness comes from trusting the one behind the events. A very important point mentioned here in this verse and purport is Srila Prabhupada highlights that Vidur was fearless. So at first glance, we may think, of course, he was fearless. He left home and went on pilgrimage. So what does fearlessness look like for a grihastha? Anyone remembers? I mentioned that also. So see, look at that. Many kind of fears people normally carry in their heart. What will happen to my children? What if I lose job? What if people criticize me? What if my plans fail? What if my health declines? So fear is natural. But fearlessness means I do my duty while remembering that Krishna is ultimately maintaining me. This is not being careless or reckless. This is dependence on the Lord. So Vidur's example for us shows us that he lost his position, he lost prestige, he lost comfort, he lost family association. But did he lose his faith? What do we see in all these enquiries? No, he did not lose his faith. So as householders, our version may be, we should think on these lines. How is our chanting when life becomes busy? How am I going to attend Srimad Bhagavatam? When my life situation is not allowing me or my health is not allowing me. How am I continuing devotional service in family challenges? How am I choosing integrity when compromise seems easier? So these are the times when, our internalization helps us develop practical fearlessness. And so, practically we should try to relate whatever we read from scriptures. We should see how all this Shravan and Kirtan deepens our remembrance of Krishna, our faith, and then that actually attracts mercy. So there is a father analogy. Prabhupada would say, to know your father, you must hear from mother. And Prabhupada would give this example to explain disciplic succession and authority. In chapter, I believe, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, he explains knowledge must be received through parampara system rather than speculation, and frequently using father-mother example in lectures, So Srila Prabhupada often used the example that one cannot experimentally discover one's father, one must hear from mother. Similarly, transcendental knowledge transcends through authentic hearing. So this is what we are doing. And we can connect this directly to what Vidur's life is explained here. Vidur's greatness was not that he knew everything. His greatness was that he was eagerly wanting to hear. So Vidur's fortune was not merely that he traveled to holy places. His real fortune was he never stopped seeking. And his sincerity led him to pilgrimage. And what did that pilgrimage lead to? Saintly association. He met Vidur. Vidur met Uddhav, and he met Maitreya. And then hearing from them leads him to deeper remembrance of Krishna. So we may not be able to walk across India or frequently go to pilgrimages or meet Uddhav and Maitreya, but every time we open Srimad Bhagavatam, every time we sit in Srimad Bhagavatam talks, every time we chant Hare Krishna attentively, we are entering the same current of mercy. And in this Kali Yuga, our pilgrimage, like I mentioned before, is chanting and hearing. And what is our Yamuna river? He met at the banks of Yamuna with Uddhav. Our Yamuna is Sadhu Sangha, association of devotees. And our meeting with Vidur and Uddhav happens through Srimad Bhagavatam. And our greatest fortune is that Holy Name makes all of this available to everyone. One last point before I conclude the call. Prabhupada mentioned very nicely so many times, Mahajano yena gata pantha. What is the relevance of this? Actually, Vedic scriptures repeatedly teach that the real path is that which is followed by great authorities. And this famous instruction appears in conversation of Yamdutas and Vishnudutas in 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Who is Vidur? Vidur is actually Yamaraj. And there in that pastime which I am referring to, there Yamaraj is speaking to Yamdutas. He's saying religion is directly given by Supreme Lord. And because Lord's purpose is sometimes difficult to understand, Yamaraj says, Mahajano yen gata sa pantha. Therefore, we should follow the path traversed by Mahajans. So now let's see. We are recommended to follow the path followed by Mahajans. Vidur himself is a Mahajan. We are reading his life and his teachings. And in order that we should be inspired to follow in his footsteps, how to similarly evolve, internalize, learn from our realizations. So in chapter 4 in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gave the knowledge to Vivaswan. Who is Vivaswan? Vivaswan is the sun god. Who is sun god? Sun god is also father of Yamaraj. And Yamaraj is again appearing as Vidur. So basically we have the path. If we can follow these footsteps of these great souls, then we will not anymore be in any bewilderment. We can also seek the pilgrimage in the options, so many options I already described. And Vidur has a special position. Vidur, like I said, is none other than Yamaraj appearing on the earth by arrangement of Lord. And so we can follow this beautiful principle of following the Mahajans. And this is, shown by Vidur. He personally demonstrates it. And this is the hallmark of a true teacher. He does not merely instruct. He lives by teaching. Okay? So this is another beautiful thing, that spiritual advancement does not come merely from intelligence. It comes from following in the footsteps of Mahajans. And what are the activities we do? We do a humble hearing, chanting, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. And Vidur exemplified that principle. And so, in this way, we can avail the great mercy in Kali Yuga. And I already shared that through how Vidur sought saintly association. He heard submissively. He followed the path of Mahajans. He trusted Krishna's arrangement even when life was uncertain. He ultimately attained deeper realization. And so process has not changed. The application has become easier. And so the holy name comes to our tongue, Srimad Bhagavatam comes to our home, saintly association comes through Sadhu Sangha and Krishna Katha. So today, our pilgrimage today is attentive hearing, sincere chanting, serving the devotees, and following the footsteps of Mahajans. So this is the true meaning of Mahajano Yena Gata Sapantha. Follow the path walked by the great souls. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, हरे कृष्णा महामंत्र की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदी, हरि हरि बोल. Hare Krishna, Prabhu, over to you.
Thank you very much for a wonderful lecture. So much advice that's there, especially following what Vidura did and the advantages, spiritual advantages for the decisions that he made. He's one of the Mahajans, I think. Is he? I'm not sure. Is he? One of the Mahajans, Vidura? Yeah. And
Yes,
obviously,
yeah, he's
he teaches us. Yeah. As Yamaraj, he's Mahajan. Yeah. So, dear devotees, this is the time to unmute yourself. And if you have comments or questions, then you can definitely ask with the time that we left. It's 9 o'clock now, but still we have, Mataji's on the line. Take advantage of her association and her wisdom and ask questions. Any questions or comments? Anyone? So that means it's clear to everybody. Well, that's possible also, very much so. So if there are no questions, then thank you, Mataji, for coming on and giving such a wonderful and very inspiring class. And dear devotees, okay, well, before we go, there is a question. All right. Dal, please go ahead, unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, I have a question that Vidur, on getting insulted, he left his home, the palace, and went on a pilgrimage. Was he that realized a soul before leaving also, or after leaving for the pilgrimage, that he got the real knowledge and purification?
So the way, that's a nice question. So the way it has been explained in Mahabharata and also referred to in Srimad Bhagavatam. So on being humiliated, he made a choice. If we read in the past verses, the verses I have given talk on repeatedly, I have addressed this, that Vidur left home, he was insulted by Duryodhan, but because of his deep integrity and devotion, he left the palace rather than participate in adharma. So then, in those times, going on pilgrimage was the recommended way to go through purification. Purification doesn't mean someone necessarily, basically how to manage the current circumstances due to various scenarios. Pilgrimage was one of the solutions. And of course, during the pilgrimage, he went through further internalization and experiences. And based on that, he later came and he actually, after meeting Uddhav, he met, again, when he met Maitreya, he came back again to Dhritarashtra and guided him. And this time, Dhritarashtra got the message and he went to forest with Gandhari and gave up his body. But he was always well-wisher. He at any time never thought of taking revenge or retaliating, all that in detail I have mentioned to great degree in my talk also today. Does this answer your question?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Mataji, I have just one quick one. When Vidura returned to the palace after going on pilgrimage and finally talked to Dhritarashtra, his brother, about leaving, why was it that Dhritarashtra finally heard his brother? It's the same Vidura has been talking for years and years and years and years before the Kurukshetra war. Why did he finally listen?
Why does Dhritarashtra listen to Vidur?
Finally listen to Vidura, yeah. Finally.
Yeah, actually, this is all Krishna Leela at a high level, but internally, like more details will come up in the following chapters. But from my understanding, internally, Dhritarashtra was also reflecting and going through realizations what Vidur had mentioned to him before he left when they humiliated him. And then when because see, Vidur itself, it's mentioned here, Srila Prabhupada says in the past verse that Vidur was his well-wisher.
Yes.
Right? Vidur was a sincere well-wisher for Dhritarashtra, and he had a thought about him in the corner of his heart. He lamented that Dhritarashtra could rebel against the sons of his dead brother Pandu, and that he could drive Vidur out of his own house on dictation of his crooked sons. And in spite of these actions, Vidur never became an enemy of Dhritarashtra, but continued to be his well-wisher. And at the last stage of Dhritarashtra's life, it was Vidur only who proved to be his real friend. So this is the behavior of Vaishnava. Do you think when a sincere, let's say pure soul is giving advice to someone in spiritually blind or materialistic conscious person, this person may not see the genuine intent of the pure soul. They always know, but it is under the effect of spell of Maya that at different times, they reject it. They reject the words of advice, but they can eventually develop that vision. So the past verse talks about it. It gives a hint that Dhritarashtra, who was under the effect of Maya and supporting his sons, but then he could understand. He always knew that Vidur is his well-wisher. So eventually, it's a whole section, whole chapter of verses eventually, which talk about how that transformation within Dhritarashtra's heart happens, and he gives, after Vidur getting enlightened with all the transcendental knowledge, after meeting with Maitreya and Uddhav, comes back and talks sense to Dhritarashtra again. That causes transformation in his heart eventually.
Thank you very much for explaining. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, then thank you very much, Mataji, for coming on, giving very, very wonderful, as I said, inspiring class. It's wonderful that you would come in the beginning of the week and hear and definitely improve our lives spiritually by what we hear from Bhagavatam. So have a wonderful Krishna conscious day and the rest of the week, and please attend steadily. Some of you do, but those who have come on, please stay and please, do it in an everyday thing. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, like we said. So, Hare Krishna. Thank you again, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Vanchakalpatarubhishya kripa sindhive evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you again. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.